Okay, so you've made it pretty close to the end of the science fiction course, and our final assignment is a close reading essay. I know you are all very excited. You were hoping you'd get to do a close reading essay at the conclusion of the course. I didn't want to disappoint you, and so I've included one. Actually, I think a close reading is a really great way to end the course because it asks you to use a lot of the critical thinking skills that the questions and the prompts throughout the course have also asked you to engage. And close reading is a skill, it's an analytic skill, that you can apply to more than just a science fiction story. I also think that it'll make you a more acute reader, and you'll get more pleasure out of reading science fiction if you're capable of doing a close reading of a story. So what is a close reading? A close reading is a type of persuasive essay in which you identify a theme or a concept in the story that you want to elaborate on, and you, using evidence from the story, tell the reader what you think about this element of the text. It's an analytical essay. So if you've taken Writing 101, which I guess you all have, or Writing 102, you know what a thesis statement is. This essay requires a thesis statement. It requires you to look at one of the stories that we've read, come up with some aspect of the story that you think is important or profound, and something that you think there's evidence for to support in the story, and then to explain it to us, your readers, in an orderly fashion that'll help us come to the understanding of the story that you want us to arrive at. So how do you go about doing this? I'll give you some suggestions. First, I have an assignment that lets you sort of vet your thesis. So I ask you ahead of time, what story do you think you want to write about? What angle do you want to take? And then I give you a little bit of feedback. So you will have some feedback before you have to work on the final draft. Now, in terms of what actually makes an effective close reading essay, there are several things. You have to have a clear thesis. It has to be something about the story that relates to the theme. You can't just summarize the story. If you summarize the story, that is a book report. I know all these stories, and by now I'm pretty sure that I know whether or not you've read them based on your responses on the discussion board, so I don't need you to summarize any of the stories for me. What I want to know is something about the story that you think is particularly interesting, or something that stood out to you as a lesson that you think the story is trying to teach us. It might be something about one of the characters. If you're writing about Vaster Than Empires, you might have noticed something about one of the characters other than Osden that you think contributes significantly to the understanding of the story. And I say other than Osden because he's the main character, but Ursula Le Guin is careful to show personalities for all the other characters as well. You may be writing about something to do with 9 billion names of God and the character's relationship to the technology that they control, or their understanding of it, or their beliefs about it. These kind of things are the questions that we answer when we write a close reading, and the results are usually pretty cool. I've gained a much deeper understanding of these stories over the years by reading students' close reading essays at the end of the semester. I feel like I know these stories probably better than any stories because I've read so many close reading essays on them, and people have revealed so many interesting intricacies about what you can see in them. So I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'll go back to some of the things that make a really effective close reading essay. First thing is, have a thesis, have the thesis comment on a theme, and I think I just went over a bunch of stuff that is entailed in the thesis commenting on a theme. Each paragraph has to have one point. Don't jumble your points up in your paragraphs. This is advice for writing in every walk of life, not just a close reading essay for a science fiction class. Every paragraph needs to have a clear point that is focused throughout the whole thing and relates to the thesis statement of the essay. Within those paragraphs, you want to have quotations from the story. You want to have elements of the story paraphrased and quoted to serve as evidence to support your points. Think of yourself as maybe a lawyer, and the thesis is your case, and each paragraph is you presenting evidence that supports that case. You can include dialogue from the story, you can include description, you can include aspects of the story that you think are essential to understanding your thesis statement. But make sure that each paragraph has one clear point. Another element that you want to think about is making sure that you consider all aspects of the story. If you have a great thesis and you point out a couple examples from the story and you write an essay that's too short for the assignment, often what I find is I could just go back to the story and find 10 more examples to support your thesis and have a really fleshed out, nice, thorough essay. It's not that your thesis wasn't effective, it's that finding enough evidence from the story was too challenging, or you didn't see enough examples. So really think about the story thoroughly. Make sure you have an introduction paragraph and a conclusion paragraph. If you want to summarize the story just because you think your essay is stronger with a summary in there, make it your second paragraph and just contain all the summary in that one paragraph. Choose your story wisely. Make sure it's a story that you felt you understood well. And make sure it's a story that you also enjoy thinking about so that you'll have a good time writing the essay and it won't be too much work. Don't start the essay the night before it's due. That I can sometimes tell. Once in a while I have someone who writes so well that I can't tell, and they'll tell me later, oh, I did that essay the night before it was due. But most of the time I just point out things about the essay that weren't very effective, and then somebody says, oh yeah, well I did that the night before it was due. That's the more common experience. So give yourself plenty of time. The reason why you want to give yourself plenty of time is you need these thoughts and ideas to percolate in your brain. If you think about them for longer, you'll get more ideas, you'll find more to say, you'll think of more evidence to support your points. These are all things that will make your close reading essay successful. Be sure to put some time into this one. The short story that I had you write, that was for fun. I'm not grading that. As long as you did the assignment, you get credit for the assignment. This close reading essay is me actually looking at what you've learned in the course, how you've developed as a reader of science fiction, and it's my way to assess your overall progress and success in my course. So I'm not saying put a lot of stress on yourself, but it's something that you want to put the time into. If you've been successful on your posts throughout the whole semester, and I've given you feedback and you've read my feedback, and if you've been successful so far, then don't worry about the essay being stressful. Just try to tell me something interesting about it. Try to tell me something that you found interesting. And don't worry about it being original. There's only so many stories. There's hundreds of people, thousands of people reading them. Even if it's not the most original idea out there about the story, there's probably going to be something about the way that you uniquely explain it that I will find interesting and will affect the way that I think about the story. Definitely feel free to contact me if you need help, if you want advice on writing this essay. Feel free to send me an email at any time, and I look forward to reading it.